Avowed is strange. Now, let me preface this with the fact that I don't think Avowed is a bad game. I actually think it's a pretty above average game. Most games that have been released in a similar vein, it definitely stands out, at least to me, as someone who really does enjoy the concept of a open world game, but haven't seen too much progress in terms of like technicality or execution. There's been a few games that have definitely stood out amongst the rest in terms of how they attempted an open world game, but none of them have ever really nailed it. And I think a lot of people would agree with me on this. Some of the pioneers of this genre that have kind of nailed it to some extent is like Shadows of the Colossus, Morrowind, you know, games that thinky people in their 30s would probably say when you ask them about an open world game. And a lot of games just reiterated on this same exact concept or style, keeping pretty much the same aspects and creating their own worlds in this preset type of idea. 2014, that all changed. The facade that there had to be a limitation on narrative concepts in open world games evaporated when a game called Shadows of Mordor was released, and despite its very deserved criticisms, it birthed the
Nemesis system,
which would only be improved upon in the following sequel, Shadows of War. The Nemesis system introduced the concept of a reactive environment, which includes seemingly endless variables in orc appearances, voice actings, personalities, and dialogue. In another YouTuber's words, Game Maker's Toolkit, they point out,
there is an added sense of narrative improv with the concept of yes and added to every enemy interaction.
Taking your actions of either fighting and winning or running away and incorporating your decision into unique interactions, weaving otherwise unimportant and forgettable characters with a pseudo-multiplayer lifeblood that makes an open world feel interactive and reactive instead of discoverable and stagnant. While the main story continues down its own linear path, the open world constantly inserts itself in your way with unique and ever-evolving villains who hunt you, seek revenge, attempt to gain clout through your demise, and move upward in rank when they succeed in your demise. They change the hierarchy structure of an ever-changing hierarchy of their own orc legion. And it's not just when they succeed against you. This happens in the background the entire time. This is a constant, like I've been saying, ever-changing aspect. An open world, if you will. Went to college. In summary, there's two really big reasons why this game was important. Is one, you know, the dang Lord of the Elf game or whatever, Calibrimbor's in it, you might know him. Two, it answered a big question that others never even attempted, which is, why would you want to play an open world game instead of a linear game? Hours of playing and running around discovering, but for what? Like, is it actually fun? Do you actually care? Genuinely, unless you're making it your sole mission to be naive to the repetitive nature of an open world, the usual answer is no. I'm unfortunately not having fun. And the elements of a game that I look forward to is almost never the scale, but the other labels that it falls under, such as RPG, mystery, fantasy, story-rich, action, whatever this one is. Of course, there are cool and inventive ways to make open world games fun. Some of my favorite moments playing games are finding Easter eggs that have minimal directions, but it just sucks the fun out of a game when the rest of the open world content is me just doing already pre-made slightly different variables of the same game or the same aspect. Oh, look, it's a tower that I've seen 100 times, but this one has a purple roof, so now it's definitely different. A forgettable object for a boost of serotonin. Please, God, give me a boost of serotonin. Please. Oh, okay. We're back. We're so back. The Nemesis system, in my point of view, ruined open world games for me. Because instead of running around, aimlessly 80% of the time, I was now running around aimlessly maybe 20% of the time, 30% of the time at most. You got these pre-made characters, right? But with like, to most people who played the game, an infinite number of variable orcs that you would find along the way and enemies and things that you would explore. It created something that couldn't ever be done again in a way, which was magical. I mean, it really made an open world out of the open world concept where anything can happen at any point and nobody knew what to expect. The Nemesis system not only gave you a chance at a easier gameplay, it gave you a hand in the success and the failure, the opportunity to make things worse. You're not just flipping a coin, you're smithing the coin into existence and helping calibrate the weight of your bet. This isn't a one-track game anymore, or at least it doesn't feel like that because you've obfuscated the track. You're still going to obviously succeed, but now there are variables that you're more concerned with than getting to the end of the finish line, meaning you're having more fun along the way than beating the game itself. It's almost like you're playing a game. It's almost like you're gamifying a game. You've become immersed in a world of what ifs and can I's instead of how long and should I. So when you play these open world games, what do you think of? When you're hunting the yellow band in Avowed, is it because you want to, or is it because you thought it was useful for your character? And when you talk to an NPC, is it because you're trying to change that character's output into the world and befriend this random person you found, learning their backstory, their intrigue, their past romance? Is it because you're learning something about a character, or is it because you thought they had a quest? Don't get it twisted. Do not get it twisted. It's not self-determination for the need of having fun. It's not your perspective and an open mind. It's not a glass half full or half empty. Good writing exists. Thoughts and dialogue connecting these exist. There are games with stories in them that have traversed everyone's experience of that game because of its delivery and its intent. It is not random, even if it was unexpected or an accident. There are objectively thought-provoking and memorable pieces of art.
Cash it as wares, if you have coin.
Avowed teeters this line of fun, but don't look too hard behind the curtain. Better than most games I've played. It doesn't give a real concrete solution or a fix to the plagued genre. Seemingly, it's just an intent of making a good game without attempting to recreate the wheel, which I unfortunately think is necessary for open world games going forward, especially personally. I don't know if I'll be interested in another game like this outside of an insanely good storytelling or a mechanic that I really like that you could only get from that one game. The solution that they chose in Avowed was to downsize the game into a concise mix of both linear and open world dynamics. They don't have too much of an impact on each other, and it feels a little extracurricular to explore outside of the main quest and the linear quests that are very obvious to you. Just because it's extracurricular doesn't mean that's a bad thing either. It just feels like, I said, a separate part of the game, which is something else that I find enjoyable. Running around and doing things as I please, which I can't say for a lot of open world games. Sometimes I just don't want to even play the game outside of the linear quest. Much like, not to name any names, if anybody knows any, I don't know. So how does Avowed approach linear quests in the main story to make it feel engaging? Well, for starters, I know exactly what I'm doing in the linear quest. And it's told not through cryptic messages and false complex mysteries and puzzles like in modern Bethesda games, which we know are not mysterious because there are objective markers. So not much of a struggle there. A Bethesda, A big B. Avowed is symptomatic of a problem innate with this form of storytelling. The idea of infinity in a finite world, creating short-sightedness and player restrictions that feel terrible in terms of possibilities. There are interesting environments and NPCs who are unique. Travel still feels like traversing. They've chosen, instead of spreading the game out so thin and expansive in order to have this grandiose, huge feel, that's insanely inspiring to just run around for hours in. They wanted to condense it into an experience that has an offer immediately. The game feels very small compared to the likes of Skyrim, GTA 5, Breath of the Wild. There's natural terrain obstructions, implied directions. There's always something to do or explore, but I know that there's a limitation to the amount of time I can sink into this game, and much lower replayability than the likes of Skyrim. But does that matter in a narrative game? Does replayability matter in a game you spend over 100 hours in? Me personally, not really. I mean, honestly, if I buy a game and I spend over 100 hours on it, I'm kind of happy about it. And I had a good time, at least I'm happy about it. There's no complaints here. But what recreates that feeling of wanting to replay a game in the first place? Well, for most people, the replayability is decided not in the length of the game, but the options and difficulty and discoverability. A different approach to the same problems with the willingness to replay it differently. Linear narrative games that make you want to explore every option because your choices affect the rest of the game. Now, I'm not saying Avowed did this. I'm just saying why you would want that and when replayability matters. The bad sides of constraining the game's content into a smaller open world is that the flaws of the game are much more noticeable. And this isn't just a critique of Avowed, this is a critique of open world genres. The inability to take the game off of the pre-rendered path from point A to B is an immense weight at times, which reminds you this isn't your story, this is a story. This is just there, and you're experiencing it. For example, you can't go up to guards and citizens and just punch them because nothing happens. You can't attempt to stop a villain before the inevitable twist. You are not rewarded for paying attention. You cannot change the game, you can only play it. There's no reward for predicting good story writing. There's no reward for attempting a read ahead. There's no reward to use your brain to try and gamify a game. And the most concise way I can put it, it feels like shit. Open world games feel like shit. There are instances in open world games that come to mind where they let you drastically alter the course and reward you for that, but that's it. Only instances. Never the entirety of the games, just the pivotal moments, the points that they want you to decide. Open world games reward you for autopiloting, for just exploring, for turning your brain off. They want you to see a beautiful, intriguing mountain path with dragons and towers and fires in the distance. And as you get closer, you realize it's inaccessible. But instead of the normal reaction that any human would have to that being, oh, what the heck, I can't even get to it, they want you to go, oh, that's neat. That's cool. I like the background. That's sick. This is epic. This is so freaking epic. Avowed to many is already considered a lifeless, unloved construct of open-world RPGs. To me, that's not entirely true, though I understand why someone wouldn't want to play it, because it is partially true. The biggest gripe of Avowed so far, and I'll probably make an entire video later dedicated to the sole topic, is the intro. A lengthy, linear intro to Avowed, I personally think wasted an hour of your time getting you into an already self-explained through 2 cinematics story. It also leaves you in a gated world where you have to complete the intro in order to get to the part where you can explore and do whatever you want. It makes you wait for the fun aspects of the game. If you were to only get past the intro of the game and to the beginning port city, I could see anyone wanting to stop the game right there and not feeling intrigued with going forward. Then you couple that with what the game does lack in terms of immersion, just due to its genre, I feel like it was a recipe for disaster. Avowed is a good game, even while burdened with the same pitfalls every open world suffers. Despite the genre being riddled with solvable issues and intrinsic, unavoidable lack of foresight, they've done their best to ignore addressing it and to march forward unabashed, focusing on the aspects they can control while ignoring the ones that they cannot. If you'd like to watch me play on Twitch, you can always go ahead and click the link in my channel description. Might do a link to it in the description here. If you want to have more content like this, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe so I know to make more of it. And thanks for watching. Goodbye, my little mucklings. I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye.